Alright, we're on the PTR server. Let's take a look at the Chuan and also Wenlock. Chuan is going to be wind typing, and his captain ability is going to be for PvP. 40%. Is a bit weird that he has specific PvP captain ability, whereas Liling has a flat 40% for everything, right? So yeah, he's a bit weaker in the captain ability. His S1 attacks one enemy 2 times, damage is equals to 60% of his defense. If the enemy's defense is lower than his, Screamer performs a pursuit attack. Attacks one enemy 2 times as well. Damage is equals to 50%, so 100%. Defense reduces the enemy's max HP. The reduction is 50% of the damage. Heals Chuan. Healing is equals to 50% of the damage. So in total, his S1 is going to do 220% damage. Not bad. His passive, Chuan gains 10 stacks of immovable object at the start of combat. Enemy damage minus 4% per stack. After an enemy's active turn ends, immovable object stacks minus 1. Taking hits while immovable object is active heals all allies, which is equals to 5% of his HP. This is also weird. It's scaling with his HP instead of his defense when he's a defender Esper. When all immovable object stacks expire, cast Skyward Strike. Attacks all enemies 2 times, damage per hit is equals to 50% of defense. When Chuan has accentuated, deals extra true damage, which is equals to 50% defense, and reduces the enemy's max HP by 100% of the damage dealt. Can't be resisted and won't miss. Inflicts sear on all enemies for 1 turn. And the damage goes up to 75, so 150 plus the 50% true damage as well. That's around 200% defense scaling. His Divinate is going to be damage taken in combat minus 20%. Look at this. His Divinate is so weird. He scales with attack, which he doesn't use, and HP, which is only for his passive. Both of his skills are defense. I don't know about this guy, man. His R1 is 15% base HP, defense, and attack. And then per resonance you have on non-meta Chuan, you gain 5%. His R2, Heavenly Might, enhances the effect of immovable object, reducing enemy damage by 8% now. So if you have 10 stacks, that's going to reduce their damage by 80%. Now this is different from damage reduction. I think I'm gonna check it out. This should stack multiplicative to damage reduction. So if you have like 50% damage reduction, and then you have 10 stacks of immovable object, reducing the enemy's damage by 40%. Keyword is reducing the enemy's damage, not damage reduction on yourself, right? So you would have 50% damage reduction for yourself, and then the enemies will also do 40% less damage on you. So they would do what? Only 30% damage? I think that's the math right there. But yeah, his R4 is at the start of Chuan's turn. If his HP is above 50%, damage taken minus 25. If his HP is below, healing received plus 100%. When all immovable object stacks expire, cast Skyward Strike and grants all allies bonus turn. His R6 is going to be very good, but outside of the R6, I don't really see him being all that useful. Maybe his R2 for some teams, but the Wu Yu team is pretty much already like unkillable. Now you have a start of turn healing. You don't need to run a Lian anymore. You don't even need to run Yamato anymore in the team. But I think you still want to run Yamato because he cleanses, right? But yeah, that's about it for this Chuan. He seems decent. I don't really see him being all that useful anywhere in the game. And then his immovable object, he only gets it once per battle, right? It doesn't renew. But I think if it renews, he could be overpowered. I forgot to show you. His rival runes is going to be... What? The Ocean Wave? What? HP! Yo! HP percentage. Okay, so he's gonna be a HP percentage unit, but his defense scales. Dog, this is weird. Okay. Wenlock now, he has a captain ability of crit rate plus 25%. S1 inflicts crit resist down for 2 turns, 120% damage. Crit resist down is going to be minus 30%. His S2 is a passive skill. Before allies' active turn starts, grants them crit rate up and crit damage up for 1 turn. When allies deal critical damage plus 10%. When they deal non-critical damage, they deal extra true damage, which is equals to attack times crit damage times 10. Wait, so even if you don't crit, you're doing the same amount of damage as if you were critting, right? Because if you crit, you get plus 10% damage. If you don't crit, you still get the crit damage multiplier right here. Actually, maybe even more because this is true damage, right? We'll see. And the target's crit resist minus 5% throughout combat up to 100%. Triggers once per turn. Okay. His S3 attacks all enemies 3 times. Damage is equals to 45% of attack. 80% chance to dispel one buff from each enemy at the end of this ability. Inflicts attack down and crit rate down on all enemies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. His divinate is going to be after casting while Howl, 100% chance of reducing star turns cooldown by 1 turn. Okay, so when he casts his S1, then he can reduce the S3 cooldown by 1 turn. Okay, his resonance R2 before fighter allies, specifically fighter, active turn starts. If they have crit rate or crit damage up, their ability cooldowns minus 1 turn. I don't think this is that good, aside from maybe some fighter espers, because most of the fighter espers, they don't really care about cooldown reduction anymore. Embla doesn't care, Elif doesn't care. I mean, again, this could be useful for some fighters, but the strongest of the fighters don't really care about cooldown reduction on their skills. And then R4 is upon successfully dispelling or stealing buffs, inflicts max HP limit minus 4% on the target for each buff dispelled or stolen. R6 is before allies active turn starts, gain take 5, expires at the end of the turn. Take 5 is can't be damaged, dealing damage won't trigger counter attacks, recover HP. Healing is equals to 20% of damage dealt, expires at the end of the turn. So this is going to be very useful against a Wu Yu team, because when you do an AoE attack, you take a lot of true damage, right? But with this take 5 ability, you take 0 damage. And also when Wu Yu counter attacks you, it says right here you can't be counter attacked, so you probably can't be counter attacked, but maybe Wu Yu could counter attack you. You would still take 0 damage because of the can't be damage right here. So yeah, his R6 is going to be very good. His rival rune is going to be win set on HP and HP counter. Alright, let's do some testing. Alright, for the first test, let's see if Chuan's immovable object stacks multiplicatively with damage reduction or not. Here's the control variable. Unas without any damage reduction. He's taking 8832 from this first guy right here. So that's without any damage reduction at all. 8832. Now I have Sakura giving Unas 25% damage reduction. He should take, let's see here, 8832. So this guy right here should do 6624. There we go, 6624. Now we'll include Chuan. So now the enemy is going to do 40% less damage because he starts off with 10 immovable object stacks, right? So this one is then once again multiplied by 60% now, because the enemies are doing 40% less damage. So 60%. So the enemy should do 3975 to Unas. There we go, 3975. So it does stack multiplicatively with damage reduction, which means if you have 50% damage reduction and you have Chuan at R2 giving you 8% per stack, right? That's gonna do 8832 times 50% because of damage reduction. There we go, 50% because of the first damage reduction that you have on your units from either Sakura or Sally. And then you times that once again with 20%, because now the enemy is doing only 20% damage. Now you only take 800 damage from 8832. That's crazy. That's only for the first hit though, and it's only 10 stacks, right? Alright, now let's just take a look at his animations. So yeah, let's just see his S1 animation and S3 as well. He will only pursue the attack with his S1 when he has higher defense, and he will not pursue the attack when your allies do an attack or anything. So again, it's not going to be that good for PvE. So let's see, we're at ×1. That's his attack, and then he will call the dog for attack. It's the same animation as the normal Chuan. Okay, just the character art is different. Okay, he casted his S3 because the immovable object got removed. Let's just see his S3 once again. Boom. I think it's the same animation as normal Chuan. So they only changed the character art. Nothing much outside of the animation or anything. And yeah, that's it for Chuan. There's not a lot of testing needed for Chuan. It's pretty straightforward. The only thing that you should know is that his immovable object stacks multiplicatively with damage reduction. Alright, now let's test out Wenlock. First, we're not going to be running him. First off, we'll see what Embla's damage is without a crit on this guy right here, on the Inferno one. Now this is Embla's S1 damage with a crit on the Wind Esper right here. 4268. Alright, now we'll add in Wenlock in the team, and we'll see how much damage Embla is going to do on this guy right here. Just now we did 2568 on the Inferno guy without a crit. 2568 plus 44 something. 448 I think? Oh sorry, it was 446. She did a total of 3014. Oh, okay, I looked at the equation wrong. This is not like plus 10% damage as when you crit. This is times 10%. So you're only doing 10% of your crit damage, essentially. That's why you see the crit versus the non-crit is a lot lower. Now, let's take a look at when Embla crits on this guy right here. She should do 10% more damage than previously. So she should do 4268 times 1.1%, 1.1. So 4694. This is what she should do. Let's see. Wait, what? Oh my god, I'm dumb. He also gave crit damage up to my Embla. That's the reason why my Embla did way more damage than 10%. So let me just redo that crit portion right here. My Embla should do a lot more than 4268. 4859. And now with Wenlock, she's gonna do 5345. That should be about 10%. Let me just calculate that real quick. There we go, 10%. Not really that big of a boost, it's only 10%. So not really worth it to run him in my opinion. And yeah, that's about it for the two Espers. In my opinion, they don't really look too good. Seem really mid. Chuan I think is only going to be usable in the Wu Yu comp. And even still, I think there's probably going to be better options for you to run. I think Yamato is still much better than Chuan because Yamato also cleanses your team. And Yamato is one of the few defender Espers that can cleanse an entire team. Whereas Chuan, he only gives you damage reduction and the healing button, which you can get from either Sakura or Lian, right? So yeah, I don't think he's gonna be that good. For PvE, he's definitely not gonna be that good. Wenlock, on the other hand, his multipliers are very low with the only 10% damage boost to your ally. Only 10% is very weak in the current meta. He doesn't deserve a slot in your team unless you maybe have him at R2. R6 is going to be good for PvP, but outside of his R6, I don't think it's going to be that good. So yeah, you can probably just chill in the championship. Don't really need to try too hard to get him. And then same goes for Chuan as well. That's about it. Ciao.